Hey, what's going on, guys? So today we're talking about cheap OTF automatics. So what is an OTF? An OTF stands for out the front, okay? So these are knives that, open out of the front of the handle as opposed to side opening automatics. There's a ton of these on the market, all right? And these are very, very popular because they're cool. Just flat out, that's just what it is. They're cool. It's not the best, strongest knife design. I mean, by far, these knives definitely have their limits. But people have been asking me to make a video about the cheap ones for many, many years. I think I've done on and off videos on some branded OTFs. Obviously Microtech's one of the largest brands, but there's plenty of brands out there that, people come to know and love. Dalton's another one of my favorites as well, ProTech. Benchmade has a couple of their OTFs as well, a lot more in recent years than they used to. It used to just be like the Infidel, but now they have all kinds of OTF knives, some I'm not even familiar with. But today's video is not on the very expensive, major brands. This is on the cheap ones, okay? Now, all these, I believe, are marked TAC knives, okay? T-A-C, K-N-I-V-E-S. Let me show you this logo on here. But it is worth noting that these knives are sold under a ton of different names, okay? And a lot of these knives could be identical. So you can have, this exact same knife, made overseas, marketed by 50 different companies. It could have 50 different names. It could be, Billy Bob's Automatics or, Cool OTF or whatever it happens to be. In this case, it's TAC Knives. Now, if you go to TAC Knives website, the range as far as price is pretty common. I mean, something like this, could be like 20 bucks, all the way up to about $100 or so. And of course, as you look through these, if you're familiar with a lot of different OTF knives, you'll notice that most of them are copies of existing patterns, okay? This is one of the reasons I've kind of avoided this video a little bit. My opinions have gone back and forth over the years. I'm still very much against counterfeits. Now, what makes a knife a counterfeit? Well, if it has fake markings, if it's pretending to be something that it's not, that's a counterfeit. These, like for example, this giant green OTF, this looks like a Makora from Microtech. I mean, it's just, the design cues are just spot on. So is this a counterfeit Makora? No, because it doesn't say that anywhere. It doesn't have a Microtech logo anywhere, okay? But it's a copy of the design. So, I mean, personal opinion and politics completely out of the picture. I just want to make a video talking about the quality and my experience with these knives. Again, I've had multiple of these models from multiple companies. They're all pretty much the same knife. Like if you've seen the Lightning OTF, I don't currently have one. That's probably one of the most popular ones. That is marketed by dozens and dozens of different dealers. You can have different logos on it. It's all the same knife. The same people overseas are making those. Different people are buying them and slapping their name on it. Okay, so I mean, just so you understand, the brand doesn't really matter. So the big question, I guess, for people who are interested in these is, what am I getting for the $60, $70, $80, $90, $100 price tag? Because generally speaking, some of these OTFs are in that price range, anything from like 50 to 100 bucks. They don't go over $100 too often. What are you getting for that? Well, you're getting all the fun that you have in a regular OTF. So you can open it, close it, and open it, close it. You can open it and use the thing. What you're not getting is a quality steel. Now these happen to vary greatly in steel choices. Very, very soft Chinese steels. I mean, the best steel I've seen in most of these very cheap OTFs is like a 440C. That's a totally usable steel. In fact, most of these are very usable steels as long as you maintain them. But most people don't. Most people aren't buying a super cheap OTF and like really keeping a good edge on it. Okay, if you're keeping a good edge on your knife, you probably have a more expensive knife. But not to say it doesn't happen. I'm sure some of you out there do that. It's just a little bit more rare. What you're not getting is consistency. When you pay $400 plus for an OTF from one of the major brands, you're getting consistency. You're getting a knife that's going to open and close, open and close, open and close. Okay, and it never fails. Sometimes with these cheaper knives, you get knives that don't open all the way. They'll come off the track quite frequently. It becomes annoying. Sometimes when they break, that's it. You have no idea how to fix them, and you're out your $50, $60, $70, whatever it happens to be. So lack of consistency. Blade steel is definitely a huge factor there. Fit and finish, yeah, you're definitely getting a little bit better fit and finish, but to be honest, some of these they're really well made, for the price tags. So it's not too far off as far as that. you know, the biggest thing I think would be, of course, your warranty. You know, if one of these breaks, you're kind of SOL. There's not much you could do. Some companies, you know, may help you out. Some companies might not. But generally speaking, once they break, that's it. When you're investing $400 plus in a Microtech or something, those will get fixed if you have a problem. Now, what's kind of cool about these is that obviously some of these have proprietary hardware, okay, just like you'd see in a Microtech. So these have kind of a triangular shaped screw head. You're not going to be able to go down to Lowe's or Home Depot and find that hardware. But what I found with the brand tack knives anyway is that some of these came with the actual you know, tools that are needed to take them apart, which is pretty cool because they don't care about warranty. You know what I mean? They don't care if you're taking your knives apart, as opposed to maybe Microtech, who gets upset if you attempt to fix your own knife, you know? So, I mean, obviously there's pros and cons in all aspects of these, but I would say that 9 out of 10 people would be happy with a cheap OTF. If you've always wanted one and you're like, I don't know if I want to spend, you know, $400 or $500 on one, don't. Just buy a cheap one. If you find that you really love the idea of having an OTF and using it and stuff, you can always go back and invest in a very good quality one. All right, but if you just want it to open and close it, just get a cheap one. There's no shame in that at all. This one happens to have a Damascus blade. This is actually a genuine sandwich Damascus. All right, so it's kind of cool. You know, but again, I mean, if you look at the design here, this, to me anyway, I could be wrong, but this looks like a Benchmade 4600. You know, or at least the overall feel of it. The coolest one, I have to say, and it's cool because I've only had one in my life and I regret getting rid of it and they're very expensive, is the one up top here. Okay, this is a Halo copy from Microtech. Now obviously it's very much a copy. There's no other knife that looks just like this. This is clearly trying, you know, to look like a Halo. What's interesting about this one, and if you've ever seen this, most people are familiar with seeing the double action OTFs. So basically our switch opens it, but it also closes it, okay? This is old school, the Halo. This is a single action OTF, all right? So our button opens it, but we have to retract it ourselves, okay? So in this case, this button features a safety within the button. So you can't just push down, so it's in the pocket, it's not gonna accidentally, you know, fire off. You have to slide this top switch so it's even. See how that moved a little bit? If you look above my thumb. Once it's even, then you can push down on the button. So let's see this action. So pull back, push down, and then you have your amazing blade, a very cool package. To bring the blade back in, if you push the button down, nothing happens, right? So you have to slide back on the lock, push down the button, grab these tabs in the back, and start to retract the blade. This pulls the blade in, okay? Then you can let go of the button, pull all the way in until it locks, and then this is just freely moving now. You can pop that back in the handle. Now you can see off the side I have these sheaths here. They come with a variety of sheaths. Mostly, you can see most of these have pocket clips except for the Halo. But different types of sheaths, Velcro sheaths, buckle sheaths. In the case of the Halo, it did come with a Kydex, all right? So you can actually clip this. This is a Tech-Lock style mount. You can put this on your bag, belt, whatever, change the position. So it's pretty interesting. This one happened to also come with a pouch as well. And that's like about $100 knife, you know? So I mean, $100 is not cheap, but it's the cheaper option, okay? If you look at a real Halo, you'll see the value in getting a cheap one. You know, but of course there's two ways to look at this. Half the people watching this video go, oh, it's cool, you know, I don't want to spend a whole bunch of money, but I kind of wanted to try the design, or I like the idea of an OTF to play around the house. Obviously, legality comes in play here. A lot of places these are not allowed to carry, so that may weigh into it. You know, I know people who have spent $400 and $500 on OTF and then realize later, like, you know, I only use this around the house. I'm not allowed to carry it in public, and that's kind of dumb. I don't want to, you know, have a knife I can't carry around with me. So there's a lot of factors, you know, that play into here. Now, in my opinion, I think you really should just save up and get the, you know, the genuine article, because you want to experience an OTF in a quality sense. You know what I mean? When you get a cheap one, this happens to a lot of people too. You get a cheap one and, you know, you open and close it a bunch, you play with it all the time, and then it breaks. And then you're like super bummed, and it just might throw you off to the design of an OTF, you know? Obviously the quality ones don't have those problems, okay? And if you actually find yourself using these knives, you know, cutting with them all the time, that's when the, you know, the blade steel really plays a role, okay? Because most of these have very, very soft steels. They look great. A lot of them are very sharp out of the box. and you go to cut one that's super impressive, that first cut, and then, you know, after opening 15, 20 boxes, it starts to dull a little bit. Maybe you're not super familiar with sharpening, and now you have this, like, you know, thin double-edged blade. You don't know how to sharpen it properly, and then you have a useless, you know, tool. I will say, if you have the money to buy an expensive one, and you ask me, hey, should I try a cheap one first? No, you should get the expensive one, okay? Because you're going to have that better experience with that expensive one. I'll tell you what, too, they retain their value. Even used, people are usually interested in these OTFs, okay? So unlike some folding knives, if you do, you know, get one, use it a little bit, and you don't like it, they're pretty easy to trade. People are always looking for them, especially if you have an older model that's, you know, out of production or something like that. They become very collectible. But as far as the cheap ones go, they have a purpose. They have a market. It's just like super cheap knives. People say, like, oh, why do you test cheap knives? You know, who wants those? A lot of people. I'm telling you, there's probably more people who are buying and using these super cheap OTFs than people who are spending $400 and $500 on the good ones. There's just a massive market for it because people want something cool and fun, but they don't want to spend a bunch of money on it. Not a lot of people want to make an investment in a fun knife, and that's what this is for a lot of people, a fun knife. Now, just to give you an example here, all right, for people who don't know, when you open an OTF, okay, if you open the blade into something, it doesn't like pierce through like magic, okay? It's going to stop the blade. It's not going to have a lot of penetrating power, okay? So if I give you an example here on the sheath, see how it hits that? It doesn't even go through a simple nylon sheath. So now it's off the track. When it comes off the track, it just freely slides up and down. If you pull all the way to the front, it resets it. So now you can, you know, open and close it again. Once it's locked in the open position, then you have piercing power. Then you can actually, you know, put this through a cardboard box or whatever you happen to be, you know, doing with your knife. But I just want to make that a point because a lot of people don't understand that. They think that, you know, if you, even a piece of paper will stop the blade on most OTFs, okay, unless they're extremely sharp. These cheap ones anyway, you know, if you do have a nice quality OTF, you could probably go through a piece of paper with it. This is just an important aspect to know because so many people have sent me messages and like, oh, I didn't really understand how that worked. I thought I'd be able to, like, you know, shoot it through things. If you have like a quality Microtech, yeah, you could probably shoot it through a piece of paper and have a clean slice through and it'll lock open. But generally speaking, they will not go through things. It's just going to get knocked off the track. I mean, it doesn't matter how expensive or how sharp they are. That's what happens. It's just part of the design. You have a spring in there that's just powerful enough to throw the blade out and lock it. All right, and that's it. No more. Once they are in the open and locked position, that's when you have that little bit of stabbing power. But even then, even on a quality OTF, a lot of times you're going to have at least a little bit of blade play. It has to be able to move around a little bit in order to function. I know there's a couple on the market that have no blade play. That's an exception. Generally speaking, 95, I'll say, % plus of OTFs on the market have some kind of blade play. But yeah, I mean, obviously you just pick the design you like, you pick one that looks cool, you have fun with it. That's the purpose of these cheap ones. But if you start to use them, understand that they are going to dull out very, very quickly. Okay, they are cheap for a reason, just like cheap folders. I would say a $70 or $80, you know, OTF like this has the same blade steel as a $6 knife. Do you know what I'm saying? A CR13 MOV or something from China. And you could see, I mean, with this particular brand, they show the blade steels on different models, which is nice. So you actually know what you're getting, but they're soft. They are soft steels. They will not hold an edge very long. All right, so these knives are totally for fun, and that is about it, okay? Like I said, if you're very skilled at knife sharpening, yeah, you can get away with using these things pretty decently and sharpening all the time, but it's a huge pain in the butt. I would just invest in something more expensive. So, yeah, I just wanted to talk about this a little bit, show these a little bit. Again, this is just one particular brand, but this represents all of them across the board. These exact knives are sold under multiple brand names, multiple dealers all across the internet. You know, it's kind of a fun thing. Just understand what you're getting. That's, I guess, my biggest point, is don't have high expectations when you're buying, you know, cheap knives. And unfortunately, a $100 OTF is a cheap knife because it's not up to par with, you know, the industry standards for a quality OTF. Very different than folders. We all know if you spend $5 or $10 on a folding knife, you shouldn't have high expectations, but someone might not understand, hey, I spent $100 on this automatic knife. You have still those really low expectations. It may break. With use, with a lot of use, it will eventually break, you know, but you have to ask yourself, is that $100 worth it for me? Is that worth it for my entertainment and to feel cool and have an OTF and play with it? Some people get one of these and they're like, okay, I get it, and they move on. Other people get one of these and they go, wow, that's the most amazing knife in the world, and they get more of them, and then they start saving money and investing in really expensive ones. And I know people with, you know, hundreds of very high-end OTF knives as well. So it's a different genre of knives that you can get into collecting and using. But, you know, for me, ultimately, the limitations legally to be able to carry them, if I can just go out and carry these, I'd have a lot more quality ones in my collection. And in the future, at some point, when I get bored, or, you know, maybe in the winter when it's, you know, a snow day or something, sitting around the house, I'll show a video of all my automatic knives in general, because I know people have been asking that as well. But anyway, I know a lot of you guys out there have these cheapos and you have fun with them. It is what it is. Just understand your expectations should be low. Just because you're spending, you know, $90 or $100 on a knife does not mean it's a good quality knife when it comes to these. So that's it for now. Hopefully you guys have a wonderful day. Let me know down in the comment section if you've ever used an automatic OTF knife, an out the front knife. A lot of you have, but a lot of you haven't either. I know a lot of people are really curious about them. They want to try them out. You know, it's up to you. Whether you go cheap or you save up and you get something quality. But that could be said for anything. It could be shoes, you know, clothes, your car, knives, whatever. Some people see the value in spending those extra dollars and other people don't. If it's just for entertainment purposes, why waste the money? I guess that's the thought, and it makes sense for some people. So anyway, that's all. I am here to tell you though, as a person who have used multiple very expensive OTFs and multiple very cheap ones, it is worth saving your money and buying the good one. It's definitely worth it, especially if you plan to use it then. So that's it for now. Hopefully you guys have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you tomorrow with a brand new video. Take care.